Hi there, this is Jonathan Ginsberg. I'm a personal bankruptcy attorney here in Atlanta, Georgia. And today I'd like to talk to you about consent judgments, or more specifically, why a consent judgment to settle a credit card debt is probably not a great idea. And here's what I mean. Basically, if you are sued by a credit card company, they hire an attorney, they file a lawsuit against you, and then in many cases you may try to communicate, or through your lawyer try to communicate with the credit card company's attorney and negotiate some sort of a settlement. The settlement could be that you're paying $100 a month for the next however many months, or it could be some sort of a lump sum settlement, or a lump sum broken into two installments, one now and one in 3 months or 5 months, whatever the negotiations entail. But what typically happens is that the credit card company's attorney, plaintiff's attorney, will want to memorialize this agreement in something called a consent judgment. And basically what a consent judgment means is that a judge will sign off on a document that says a judgment has been issued against you in the appropriate state or superior court, and that if you do not fulfill the terms of that judgment or the agreement, then the judgment can be turned into a wage garnishment, a bank account levy, a real estate lien, that sort of thing. Now, the reason why judgments are not good is there are several reasons. Number one is it shows up in your credit report as a judgment. So in other words, if you are sued and you don't answer at all, or you go to trial and you lose, you would have a judgment, and that stays on your credit report for, depending on the state and depending on how it's structured, 7 to 10 years, and it can be renewed continuously. But it also means that for your credit, it's going to be very difficult to establish new credit because, again, you've got this judgment creditor there that could jump ahead of any consensual lien thereafter, any car note or anything like that, and they could garnish your wages, and they could go after your real estate, whatever the case may be, because they are first in line. So a judgment is not at all a good thing. Now, in bankruptcy, we can get rid of judgments. It's an extra process called the motion to avoid judgment lien. But if you enter into a deal and there is a judgment, realize that you are going to be messing up your credit probably much worse than even having late payments or even a bankruptcy on there. So what I would advise you, if you're trying to work out a deal, number one, try to work out a deal with the creditor before it gets turned over to the attorney. And again, try to figure out a way to structure something where it's not in the form of a judgment. If you are sued, see if the attorney will agree to something called a consent order, where basically you suspend the civil action pending your satisfaction of the terms of a deal. And a lot of times that's going to be getting the thing paid off in 6 months, 8 months, something like that, but it does not get reduced to a judgment. You're going to find that the creditor's attorney, they're going to want a judgment. So if you do end up with a judgment, make sure that the deal provides that at the time you satisfy the negotiations, whatever you've agreed upon, then they will go ahead and mark that judgment as satisfied. It's not going to come off your credit. It's going to remain on your credit for 7 years, even though you satisfied the judgment, but at least it shows it's been satisfied. I can't tell you how many times we file bankruptcy for somebody, and it turns out that they had negotiated a deal, there was a lawsuit, and no one ever marked the judgment satisfied. Then 10 years later, my client goes to buy a house, and lo and behold, there's an unsatisfied judgment there. And again, it can be fixed, but it's going to take extra time and extra money to do that. So that's why doing a judgment, entering into a judgment, consent judgment, is not a great idea. If you do it, you're probably best off having an attorney look at it, and then again, you want to make sure you follow up with it later on so that that judgment is marked satisfied, or if you file bankruptcy, that your attorney knows about the judgment so he or she can file a motion to avoid the judgment lien. Big picture, judgments are dangerous. Judgments from a state court are dangerous because they can follow you around, and again, creditors have very little incentive to mark them as satisfied after they've been paid because it's just extra work for them, but it can haunt you for a long time. So make sure that you take a look at this and you seek legal counsel before entering into any sort of a consent judgment with any credit card plaintiff. You'll be happy you did, because again, it can be a real bad thing if you don't. I hope this has been helpful. Again, I'm Jonathan Ginsberg. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Like it on our Facebook page, and like our Facebook page. Any questions you've got, let me know. And thank you for your attention.